One America equals. God! Praise to the chaos, God! Praise to the chaos, God! Praise to the chaos, God!
When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado with ManMadeSurvival. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I really do appreciate it because I have several very important videos that you should not miss here in the next few days, because this chain of events becomes even more clear as time goes by, because the window of opportunity for preparedness is closing. And as a matter of fact, what I'm going to be talking to you about today is pretty much the election and how things can turn out as far as violence is concerned. And that's why I believe that talking about this subject, 3 days before the election is going to be very important for every American, because a lot of people are making preparations for that day, whether it becomes violent or not. I guess we're going to find out in the next few days. So that's what I want to talk to you today about. Tomorrow, I want to talk about the economy, and the next day, I want to give you a video about the war that's coming with China. Something that I've been talking about for a while, but more evidence has come out, and the talk and the rhetoric has actually changed to where it went from, if we continue in this path, we may go to war, to it's going to be certain, almost certain, and now they're saying it's going to happen. So we have to pay attention, and the window of opportunity for all three of these to get prepared is closing very quickly. So, how long do we have? We don't really know, but we have to pay attention and we have to do things now. Before I continue any further, though, I do want to remind you that we have a Patreon now, and I would really appreciate if you would go over there and check it out and support us, so we can continue to bring you this podcast and helping people out and doing several things to where we can expand this network and actually do something productive, instead of just complain about the affairs of the country and not do anything about it. But that what I want to do is to actually become proactive in preparedness. Instead of being just a hobby, I want it to become a way of life. And if we create this network of preppers that actually do something about things, then we're going to be a lot stronger than any other group that's out there. And it's going to be very beneficial for us to do this before crap hits the fan. So I encourage you to go to Patreon and help us out on that. Also, I want to remind you that this podcast is sponsored by my store, ManMadeSurvivalStore.com. And in that store, whether you're preparing for an EMP or a nuclear disaster, or you're just trying to find the perfect gift this holiday season, you can rest assured that every item in that store is going to help you in your preparedness and your survival one way or another. All right, and it's not there's no items in there that are useless. Everything that's in there is perfectly useful. So I encourage you to go on there and check it out, ManMadeSurvivalStore.com. Now, I do want to mention something before I continue to the partner that we have. All right, I have noticed that there's people that are going to the ManMadeSurvivalStore.com to try to purchase the encyclopedia. I want to remind the audience that placeholder in the store is not for you to buy it from me. There's a link in the description of that item that will take you to greenmedicine-encyclopedia.com. You buy it from them. All right, all you're doing is clicking the link to take you there, or you can just type in your browser greenmedicine-encyclopedia.com. And if you use the coupon code ManMadeSurvival, you will get $40 off. So I'm saying this specifically to the people who have tried to purchase it through me. Again, it's not through me. The reason that it's on the store is just a placeholder, so you can click that link and it'll take you to the site where you will actually buy it from and download the program from. And as I've been talking about that just for a few minutes, Green Medicine Encyclopedia is a great encyclopedia because it has different sicknesses that you can actually look up and have natural remedies for it. And it's going to be something very beneficial, because if the internet goes down, if there's an EMP, or even if your computer craps out, you have the ability to download everything that's on it. And excuse me, not download. What I mean is print out everything that's in it, and you can put it in a binder, and you have a well-researched encyclopedia right at your home, and it's for the price is very, very cheap. So and especially you get $40 off when you use the coupon code ManMadeSurvival. So I encourage you to go on there and check it out. All right, I want to get into this subject about the election because the window of opportunity is closing for many Americans, and we have seen the mainstream media, we have seen the alternative media, all the reports that have come out. There's people right now, as far as the stores are concerned, they're starting to board up their stores, because they understand that it doesn't matter who wins or loses, there's a big potential for civil unrest. The likes that we probably have never seen in this country since World War II. Since the first Civil War. That's what I meant to say. And then when you switch that to the private, people, to the citizens in the private life, they're starting to buy up more guns, more ammo. They're buying the vests, the bulletproof vest. They're buying chest rigs. They're buying sidearms. They're buying the night vision goggles. They're getting prepared. And in my opinion, they should already have that long before anything like this happened. But the point is that there's a very proactive approach to all of this that's going to be going on in the next 3-4 days. All right, so that's why I keep saying the window of opportunity is closing. Since we started January 1st, 2020, we understood that we just came into a election year. And we understood that, in January, 11 months away, we were going to vote for the next president. And in those days, pretty much Trump had it in the bag. There was going to be no one that could compare to Trump. He was just going to sail right through it, and there was going to be no problem. But then after George Floyd, we saw that the uptick in riots and looting and everything that happened, grew exponentially. All of that happened in over 140 cities throughout the United States when it first broke out. And then, you have pockets of it in different places, but the most famous one is Portland or Seattle or, other places around the country. And the reason that is important is because at first, people were just looting and burning down buildings. Then it shifted to people bringing guns, and like it happened in Austin, Texas, a guy in a Black Lives Matter protest, he actually brought with him an AK-47. He opened fire at a car. The car returned fire, killing that guy. And then, when you shift that to months later, what we saw in Seattle is that someone got gunned down. One of the Patriot Prayer guys, he got gunned down. And then not too long ago, a few weeks ago, I believe it was in Seattle as well, the quote unquote security guard that was helping the news channel, to I guess be safe, he actually killed a Trump supporter. So the bloodshed has started. In some cases it has not escalated as fast as people believed, and I'm one of those people. I really did believe that the shooting was going to start a lot sooner, but we're just 4 days away, and it seems like it may start. And I hope that it does not. I'm not calling for violence or anything like that, but quite the opposite. For preppers, I'm telling you to stay cool, stay at home, and just look after your own. All right, because there are going to be groups on both sides, on the right and the left, who are going to go out there and they're going to clash. And we've seen that in the past where, whether it was 3%ers or the NFAC and others, where they actually came and they clashed, they actually fist fought. And, we've seen the videos. The point of all of this, what I'm saying is that this weekend, today is October 31st, 2020. But in one of the things that I always tell you is that you need to go ahead and accumulate things. You have to have enough food, enough water, and the whole speech. But what I want you to do this weekend is for you to sit back and think, all right, what I have right now at home, how far can I make it? I can no longer go to the store. I can no longer spend any money because I got laid off and the economy has really taken a toll on my family, or maybe because there's just not enough stuff at the store. Whatever the case may be, I want you to sit back as if crap has hit the fan today, and I want you to think, how far can I make it with these preps? All right, so the reason that I want you to do that is because now, instead of you accumulating things, what I want you to do is to make a plan for the things that you already have. All right, because a lot of people have plans of accumulating even more food, more water, more ammo, more everything, but either they were procrastinating and they didn't get around to it, or maybe they just didn't have the money. So this weekend, since we're 3 days away from the election and potentially being in a period of time where it's going to be very violent, instead of you thinking what else can you accumulate, now I want you to make a plan and I guess you can say an inventory of what you have and how you're going to use it this weekend. However much food you have, that's all you have, right? Let's say an EMP hit today and that's all you had because you couldn't go to the store. What can you do to make that last? It's the same thing with water, with everything else. Now, I have shared with you in the past, that here in ManMadeSurvival, we have I guess you can say like the levels of danger that the country is going through, and we're on red right now. And what red actually reads right now, it says that you should be in your bug out, bug in location, running your infrastructure 24/7 and having also a perimeter check 24/7 now. You have to make that in place, you have to put that in place because depending on where you live, you could see different levels of civil unrest. If you live downtown Seattle or Portland, you have experienced what it's like in the past few months, and in some cases in the past, couple of years, because Portland has been doing their thing for a while now, but it did not explode to the extent that it is now. But if you live in the suburbs, you have more space, or not more space. What I want to say is that you have a better opportunity to block off the streets from people coming into the suburb area and doing whatever they want to do. And if you live in a rural area, in a ranch, in a farm, or just you have like 3, 5, 10 acres in your land, then you have a lot more buffer zone between the road and your house. Because one of the things that I want to point out, and I'm going to be playing it as I talk about it, is that there's people screaming at people in their homes from the street, and they're actually throwing distance where they can actually throw a Molotov cocktail and burn up their house. And the reason that they're able to do this is because in the suburbs there's very small space, not only from the road to your house, but also from one house to the next. So if one fire broke out, since the houses are so close together, that could actually jump from one house to another. So that's why it's important for you to come together as a community. And if it has to be done, then block the street, block the access in and out. Make sure that the people who actually are coming through live in the area, and you make it as safe as you can. Because remember, the police are only going to be able to take care not only of themselves, but just the government buildings, the police precincts, and places like that. And it's something that we have seen in Portland, we have seen in Seattle, we saw in Minnesota, we saw in Atlanta. Every time we saw a very big demonstration where buildings were burned down, it was because A, the police was told to stand down, and B, there were not enough police officers to actually split between protecting the government buildings and protecting people's businesses. All right, so that's why it's important for you to prepare now. All right, you have had this coming the entire year. We're only 3 days away. If you have not done anything about it, then you only have 3 days left for you to make sure that if there's going to be unrest in your area, that you're going to actually keep your family and your property safe. All right, so the first headline that I have for you is this: burning the USA. The city will be on fire. New Yorkers prep to flee homes to avoid post-election rioting. No matter who wins, someone is going to get upset. New Yorkers are reportedly making plans to escape the city ahead of potential election day violence and protests, according to the New York Post. Paulo Way, 25, is planning on avoiding unrest by leaving his luxury building on the Upper West Side for his family's 60-acre farm 2 hours north of the city, the Post reported Saturday. Quote, "I felt trapped in the apartment. The protests were overwhelming. It could happen again, and I don't want to be caught up in that. No matter who wins, someone is going to get upset." All right, so several things that I want to, draw out from that article is that when I was giving people advice on what to do when the riots in Portland were actually breaking out, when CHOP or CHAZ was actually established for a couple of weeks, I told you, if you're in an apartment, there's very little you can do. Pretty much all you have to do is make sure that no one comes through your door. You either barricade it or you have guns pointing at it at all times, and you have to make sure that your fire escape is ready for you to use so you can dip out of there as quickly as you can. And if you have an alliance in the city, then everybody has to be in the same apartment complex, so it'll be easier to defend. All right, so, and the other thing that I said is that if you can, the very first thing you need to do is just to bug out, to get the heck out of Dodge. And that's what this person did. Now, obviously, they have money, right? Because he lives in a luxury building in the Upper West Side in New York. And I've never been in New York. But what I understand is if regular New York, not the luxury side, but the regular side, is expensive to live in, I can just imagine how much more expensive it is to be on the luxury Upper West Side. But he did leave and went to his parents' 60-acre farm. And again, that's another thing that I tell you all the time, that if you're gonna buy land, you have to have as much as possible, as much as you can afford. And 60 acres is really, really good, because not only it's gonna be a lot harder for people to come to that area and target you specifically for being a Trump supporter or being a Biden supporter, whatever the case may be. You're gonna be able to actually start homesteading right off the bat if anything was to happen. You can have the infrastructure in place for you to start farming, for you to start having your livestock, for you to do aquaponics, for you to do all these sorts of things that you're gonna have to do if there was an EMP or if there was a war that broke out and the global trade just stopped. You're gonna have to have the land in order for you to be able to homestead right off the bat. All right, so that is important. Now, the last thing that he said is this: no matter who wins, someone is going to get upset. And that is very true, because there's different scenarios you can actually draw from this election. And, we're just 3 days away. And again, the window of opportunity is closing. And it's closing a lot faster than we could possibly imagine. To me, this year has gone very fast. For some people, it has been very slow because, of COVID and everything. But the point is that it will come the time where the window of opportunity has closed, and now you rely on your preps. It seems like for us, civil unrest is 3 days away. Now, this is the comparisons that I want to make, all right? And I want to make them level-headed with no political bias, because as you know, I don't like getting political, because to me, this is my personal opinion now, that it doesn't really matter which side you're trying to defend. You're always going to have someone arguing with you about it, and you're not going to get anywhere. All right, I say that from experience with family members, with people I worked with, stuff like that. So I just don't get into it. And I don't want this podcast to become political, but sometimes the political spills into the survival. And because, this environment that we're in, we have to think about the preparedness because of the political situation we're living in. All right, so that's why this would be the moments where I have to talk about the political things going on so we can understand how we're going to survive all of it. Now, these scenarios are just one of the very many things that can happen. All right, here's the first scenario. The first scenario is that Trump wins in 3 days, right? It's a clear victory. It's a landslide. There's no doubt about it. Trump is going to be in the White House 4 more years. But because of that, we will have the radical left, which, you can say is Antifa, Black Lives Matters, whatever other is out there that has come out and say that they will overthrow Donald Trump in the White House if he wins re-election. Now, let's say that they mobilize. 2 things can happen. One, the right can rise, and then they're going to clash with the left, creating that civil war environment that we have been talking about for a few months. And the other thing is that they're going to have, or the right is going to have, more than likely, the backing of Trump. All right. So they not only is the right with their training and with their equipment and everything, they're going to fight against the left, but there's a possibility that Donald Trump may use the army itself to back up the right and put down the left insurrection. All right. That is a big possibility. But the flip side of the coin is exactly the same, but the opposite. What if Biden wins? All right. If Biden wins, then he's gonna rise to power. It's very likely that, since we know that everything that's been happening with the whole China collusion, with the emails from Hunter Biden's laptop, with the ballots being stolen, being dumped, from people actually buying votes for Biden and stuff, all the stuff that has come out in the past few weeks because of all this whole election, I guess you can call it political weather. Because of that, it could actually prompt the right to rise up and go against Biden. All right. So now that's gonna make the right look bad, like they're the ones doing the insurrection, that they're the ones doing the coup, that they're the ones rising against the government, and then we can have two things happening exactly that would happen with Trump. One, that Antifa, Black Lives Matter, whatever is in the left, they will rise up and clash with the right. Okay, but not only that, then Biden would have the backing of the army to be able to use against the citizens, and that would help the left and actually defeat the right. And then this could get very bloody very quickly. The point that I'm trying to make is that it doesn't really matter which side you want to vote for. You have to prepare for the repercussions that are going to happen afterwards. Now, we're 3 days away from finding out exactly what's going to happen, and it might be more days because they have come out and say that it's very possible that we won't know who won the election, on Tuesday. We might find out weeks later, and I guess we just have to wait and find out, see what happens. The point is that on January 20th, we'll know for sure, all right, who gets inaugurated, and that's when we see whether the uptick in violence, explodes, or everything calms down. I mean, right now it's up in the air, and just judging by what we have seen, not only in the past few days, but in the past months and couple of years, is that it has a very big potential of becoming a very bloody civil war, especially with all the technology advancements that we have. We have better guns, we have better ammo, we have better night vision, we have suppressors. There's a whole bunch of things that people in the first Civil War did not have, right? But now we have those now, which can make it either a very fast civil war or a very lengthy civil war, depending on who gets involved. All right, so the next article that I have for you is very important because pretty much goes along with what I've been saying this entire time. And it reads, "Remember, it's your fault that we attack." This from ncrenegade.com. And actually what you're seeing right here in front of you is a note that somebody found. All right, and it reads, "Dear neighbor, you have been identified by our group as being a Trump supporter. Your address has been added into our database as a target for when we attack should Trump not concede the election. We recommend that you check your home insurance policy and make it that it's current and that it has adequate coverage for fire damage. You have been given fair warning. Always remember that it was you that started this civil war. Be prepared to face the severe consequences of your preemptive action against democracy." All right, so they're not being subtle, I guess that's the right word, about what the intentions are. All right, so again, depending on where you live, if you live in the city, if you live in the suburbs, or you live in a rural area, your approach of making sure that your house is secure is going to be completely different on all three levels. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you live in the city, you have very small space. If you live in an apartment 20 stories high in New York, you can forget it. It's going to be very difficult for you to be there. So if you have been waiting for the moment for you to actually leave the city, then you should do it this weekend. You may say, well, I can't leave because I have to vote first. Then I would say send your family, send your spouse, send your children, send them ahead of time so it'll be easier for you and your spouse to just leave, or just, if you're the one voting, for you to just leave. You can also do an absentee ballot, which they can send you through the mail. You can mail it back, and you can already be in your bug allocation well away from anything happening. If you live in the suburbs, then you can band with your neighbors, you can block off the street, and if anybody's trying to come through your area, you know, you just keep sending them down, and if things get violent, then you have to do what you have to do. You know, I want to make sure that you understand that I'm not calling for violence, but what I am saying is that you have to make sure that you understand that if you're going to stand up for your family, then more than likely lives are going to, you know, perish. And like that letter said, they're coming after you. They have identified you as a house that needs to be burned down. And again, when you're in the suburbs, there's not a very big distance between the front door and the street. You know, it's really close to where they can throw a Molotov cocktail to your building or to your house and start setting it on fire. And now you have to escape. Now you don't have a home. And when should you open fire? You know, that's going to be up to you. I'm not going to tell you that. You need to look up the laws in your city, in your state, and you have to make sure that you're going to go exactly by what the law says. The reason I want to say that is because what we've seen with Kyle Rittenhouse. All right, he went out there. You know, he was a minor, but the point is that he did defend himself. He did use an AR-15 to defend himself. But what happened? The district attorney came specifically after him. Now you have to understand that you're probably going to be in the same shoes as Kyle Rittenhouse. For one, if you do come out and try to protect your property, and two, if you actually shoot someone and kill them. All right, so you have to understand that you might spend the rest of your life in prison. Is that fair? You know, for us, it's a no. You know, for the public court, it's a no. But when you get in the court and there starts giving the evidence and everything like that, it's going to be up to your peers to decide whether or not you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. And that's what Kyle Rittenhouse, at 17 years old, is facing right now. So we'll see how that turns out. But the point is that you should not really rely too much on the police and the criminal system, because it could be turned against you, especially if they are sympathizers for Black Lives Matter, for Antifa, whatever. They'll come after you. We saw the same thing with the couple in Louisville, Kentucky. You know, they came out guns blazing pretty much. They kept people at bay. You know, they did not come any closer. They make sure that they stepped well away. And because of that, those videos coming out, because of that information coming out, the district attorney went after them too. You know, they actually used the red flag laws against them to go and confiscate all the weapons. But since that became a very big, you know, deal, a big case, they had already turned in their weapons to their attorney, you know, for evidence and stuff like that. But the point is that you have to understand that if you do stand up for your family, if you do stand up for your property, if you do stand up for your freedom, even if you don't die in the battlefield, more than likely you could spend the rest of your life in prison. So make sure you understand that going in the next 4 days. And not only that, you know, voting as well. All right, and you saw the video that I showed you in the introduction, all right? And I'm showing it here again. And when you look at someone like that, you know, acting the way that they're acting, actually eating a heart and doing all the things that they're doing, how can you actually try to reason with someone like that? You know, it seems like you can. And they have intimidated people time after time in restaurants, out in the street. You know, they actually gang up on people. But how do you reason with them? You just simply can't, especially going into the election. It's 3 days away. And we have seen videos that have surfaced. The people are actually plotting to take on the White House. You know, we had that seize the White House. Supposedly it was going to happen back in September. It never happened. But they're talking about now that they're going to pretty much seize, you know, Washington, D.C. from November 3rd all the way to January 20th. So, again, more potential for violence going into the holiday season. All right, so what is the government doing about all of this? Now, depending on where you are, is how the government is reacting to all of this. In in Texas, Governor Abbott sending 1,000 National Guard troops to 5 Texas cities for possible post-election violence. This is from SearHedge. It's been a nationally observable trend for months that Americans, often who never so much as purchase a single weapon are now stockpiling guns, ammo, and survivalist gear ahead of what many fear will be a contested election, followed by mayhem and unrest, especially in urban areas, which saw mass rioting and looting over the summer, and the complete breakdown of law and order. Anticipating this very scenario, Republican Governor Greg Abbott has mobilized up to 1,000 troops to safeguard major cities in Texas on Election Day and afterward over potential unrest and disturbances, Fox News reports. All right, so at least Texas is being proactive, but there's other 49 states that may not be doing anything about it. So if they're not doing anything about it, the police is pretty much run over by all these people that they have to take care of. Then it's going to be down to you to protect your family. All right, so make sure that you have a plan, that you have 24/7 perimeter check around your home all the time, that your neighbors are actually, taking shifts if y'all are going to block off the road together, and make sure that, there's peace where you live. Then try to make the best judgment when people come through. Don't get in heated arguments. Don't start siding on one issue or another. Just tell them to move along. And if anything happens, then you have to do what you have to do. Again, I'm not calling for violence, but that is the possibility of things going that direction. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, people will try to flee the United States when something major happens. It could be a war. It could be the economic collapse that's coming. It could be this civil unrest. It could be many things that people will flee the United States if they have to. So you have to understand that things are going on in other countries as well, especially in Europe. Here's my next two headlines, and I'm going to end it with that. Watch. Shove your new world order up your butt. London erupts in protest against lockdown. That's from Breitbart.com. Canadian political leak, new COVID lockdown plan, and Great Reset dictatorship. Australia is part of it. That's from CAIRNS news.org. All right, so again, you have to make sure that wherever you think you're going to spend the apocalypse, that you're going to have to be prepared before anything happens, because you never know when they're going to lock down the country again, and they might not let you fly off anywhere. All right, the one of the headlines that I have added this at the end that I want to talk about in another podcast is that they're closing down Paris again, and people are trying to flee as fast as they can away from the city before the draconian lockdown starts, where if they so much stick their nose out of the front door, they have to give a reason why, and even if they don't, they're going to be either taken into lockdown camp or quarantine camps, or they're going to be given very hefty fines. All right, here's the headline where I'm getting this information. Escape from Paris. City is gridlocked as tens of thousands flee. The stations are packed. Violent protests break out, and shelves are stripped ahead of month-long lockdown that bans travel. All right, and that could potentially happen in the United States as well, which is something that I've been warning for a while now. If you've been part of this podcast, if you've been one of the fans that's loyal and you've been listening video after video, you understand that I've told you that this was coming. All right, and I've told you this back in February or March, whenever it was, because when we were talking about the first lockdown, all right, they were saying that it's only going to last 6 weeks. That was the famous line from Donald Trump, that he said that it was going to be over by Easter, and all those other things that he said. But I warned you in this podcast, telling you that you had to make sure that to prepare for a lockdown that was going to last a lot longer than that. And the reason that I said that is because other places, by the time it hit the United States, they had already been under lockdown over 6 weeks. All right, so now look at us. All right, they're talking about going into lockdown again here in the United States for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and not only that, all the way to 2022. So they're talking about those things. Fauci has come out and say that we need to have mandate for masks, and not only that pretty much we should be locked down again, and pretty much take very drastic approach so the numbers can go back down. So Paris is experiencing it. People are trying to flee as fast as they can out of it. the day off or the day before the lockdown actually starts. So you have to make sure that you're in a place where you're going to be comfortable. You have your preps in place. You have your plan, being executed. And whatever comes your way, you're going to be able to roll with the punches, or you're going to be able to defend against it. All right. So again, this weekend, what you should be doing is for you to sit down, whatever it is that you have, make a plan for it, because you can make plans for scenarios that could happen way out in the distance, out in the future. But really, you're going to have to tweak those plans as the days go by and as they get closer to the time where crap has actually can hit the fan. And possibly, again, we're 3 days away from that. So make sure you do that this weekend. That you sit down, you make a plan specifically for what you already have, how you're going to distribute those resources, how you're going to replenish those resources, and what steps are you going to take to make sure that your family is safe. All right, so I encourage you to come back for the next video, because we're going to be talking about the economy, how things are getting from bad to worst. And all of these three things are actually connected. And it could be four with the whole pandemic stuff coming out and this new information coming out today. So I haven't had the opportunity to look through it and actually put it together. But, the November election is potential for riots and civil unrest. The economic collapse that we're experiencing is going to get a lot worse. Will have not only civil unrest from people disagreeing with each other, but also because people are going to be searching for food. And then the third thing that I want to talk to you about is war, because of all of these things going on at the same time, with the civil unrest because of the election or because of the economic collapse. China may take the advantage of what's going on and actually attack the United States. And let me remind you that there's a prophecy out there of Dmitry Duduman that said that there would be an uprising in the middle of the country and the government would be busy putting it down when the other countries decide to attack. And the attacks will come out of Mexico, Nicaragua, I think Colombia, and other places. All right? Could that happen this Christmas season? The answer might be yes. So come back and listen to that video, because I have a lot of information. And again, all of this goes together. You have to prepare. The window of opportunity is closing. The economic collapse window, we don't know how long it might be. It could take, several more months or maybe even years. The war could be happening in the next few hours. So I guess it depends on how things play out. But the point is that the window of opportunity is closing. And if you are not able to keep preparing because you have been laid off, because, your business is not doing good anymore, or whatever the case may be, make a plan for what you were able to stock up on and make plans for it. All right. So again, I want to remind you about the sponsor that we have, which is my store, ManMadeSurvivalStore.com. You can find all the prepping things, all the prepping needs you have on that store. And also the partner that we have, which is GreenMedicineEncyclopedia.com. And also want to remind you about the book I'm giving away, which, times like this is very important for us to share that kind of information. The book is absolutely free. All we need your help is with shipping. You can go to the store, ManMadeSurvivalStore.com, and find the link for the book there, or you can go to ManMadeSurvival.com or www.PreppersSecretCache.com, and you can click the link. It'll take you to the page. You fill out your information, and as soon as we receive it, we send it to you the very next day. So do not delay. And also share this with your friends and family, because again, the time is very important that we do that. Sharing all your social media. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can share it in their counterparts, which would be Brightion.social, would be Brightion.com, and Gab, places like that. So make the effort. Please help us grow. We're trying to get to the 1,000 subscribers. Please subscribe to the channel so you can get more information that is very important that I'm sharing with you today. All right. So again, my name is Jose Prado, and remember, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.